Hi students, in this video we're talking about what is the difference between 12 and 24-hour notation. What that means is it's basically saying, what do I write? Do I write it like this, so 2 o'clock p.m., or do I write it as 1400 or 14 o'clock? The truth is they're actually both the same. So what we have on the left here is an example of 12-hour notation, because when it gets to the next 12, it then resets from AM to PM. Or in this 24-hour notation, when it goes past 12, it just keeps counting. Often it will reset when it gets to the next 24, but sometimes it doesn't. So yeah, I might talk about that later. But mostly speaking, it'll reset when it goes 23:59, and the next minute will be 24 o'clock, or we'll go back to 0000 or 0000. I'll show you what I mean by that. Sorry about that. All right, so we have 2 p.m., right? So we call this in 12-hour notation. I know it's 12-hour because it's p.m. and it's not written as 14, but write it as, if I click 24 notation, it's now 1400. Clock hasn't changed, it's still 2 p.m. So visually, what does that mean? So let's go back to AM. So right now I've got 11, so my hour hand is between the 12 and 11, so I go to the one that's anti-clockwise, that's 11 something. Minute hands on the 11, if I count by fives, the 11 represents 55, so it's 11:55, 11:56, 57, 58, 59. It's 11:59 a.m. Once it hits the 12, hour hand and minute hands are both on the 12. It's now p.m. We call it a.m. and p.m. because it actually stands for, I keep pressing the wrong button, my apologies. A.m. stands for anti-meridian and p.m. stands for post-meridian. What is a meridian, you might ask? It's another way of calling it noon. What is noon, you may ask? Noon is what we call 12 p.m. So anti-meridian just means anti, a Latin word just meaning before, and post is a Latin word for after. So as an example, if you said, how are you feeling post-surgery? You're saying, how are you feeling after you've had your surgery? So I've got 14 o'clock or 14, sorry, I might not use that as an example. I've got 2 p.m. It just means I've gone 2 hours after 12 o'clock. So what's 2 plus 12 o'clock? Well, it's 14, isn't it? So one way to solve 24-hour notation is you just add 12 if you're trying to convert it into 24 notation. If I'm in 24-hour notation and I want to go back to 12-hour notation, I just take away 12. Yeah. So if I go to this as an example, now I'm in PM. If my hour hand goes all the way, let's say to the 5, and I'm now in 10 past 5. Yeah, so if I look at my analog clock, that's saying 10 past 5. If I wanted to convert it into 24-hour time, I just go 5 plus 12, which is 17. So it's 17:10, and I can see that right here. That's proved. That's true. And if I had 17:10 and it said we'll convert it into anti-meridian, sorry, what am I saying? If it said convert it into 12-hour notation, I would go 17 take away 12, which is 5. If you're like me and you're not very great at counting by 12, I often I take away 10 and then take away 2. So 19:15, I could take away 10, which makes it 9, and then take away 2, which is 7. So 7:15. That's how I would do it. Great. I think that's all we needed to explain. As I said, once it gets to 12 a.m., so right now I'm on 23:59, once it gets to the 0, it'll be 24 o'clock, or goes back to reset to 0. It's the next day. So now, if today is Monday, so it'll be now Tuesday, because it's now 0000. So often you hear that in war movies. A lot of like soldiers will call it like that. All right, hopefully that made sense and it helps you. All the best with your work.